Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Unfiltered Football Podcast. Andrea and Ben, the Russo and Loki, back after a week period absence. Because as you know, Loki was working heavily as usual, even more than usual last week. So we weren't able to do it. But as I said, I didn't want to do something without Loki because, of course, the podcast is me and him. So, of course, if someone is not available, we will have like the spare week, and that's what happened
Mhm.
last week, basically. So, my man, how are you?
Mm,
How are things going? Because actually, we were both very busy. So that's
yeah.
the first time we're talking in days properly,
A
not
while.
just via text messages. So what's up?
Mm.
What's up, Loki?
Yeah, it's
How
not
can
been
you tell me?
it's not been as eventful as your last few days, Andrea. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been all right. As people can tell, my voice is finished. My throat's it's from coaching, it's from the cold, it's from everything. I've had a bit of an illness for the last 2 weeks that seems to just keep appearing every time I go outside in this horrible British weather. But yeah, apart from not being able to speak, good man. I actually feel all right. You know, Went to see my friends and my dad yesterday. That was good. It's always good to go out and talk to your mates and see your family. So I don't see them too much because traveling's quite expensive in the UK. But yeah, it was good. Good to see my mates and my dad again and have a little chat about Leeds and life. But yeah, apart from that, not much more, mate. Just yeah, getting on with it, working. Although I had yesterday off because of my throat because I can't coach if I don't have a voice. So
Yeah. That's a
I saved
problem,
it.
to be fair.
Yeah, that's the issue. But yeah, so all good, man. What about you? Going perfect for you,
Well,
Andre. You've had no problems at
yeah,
all, have you, in the last
I had no problems at all. As people have known now, uh, talking about it in a more serious manner. Because I always try to see the positive side of a thing. There's always worse in this case. But as people have noticed, also with out of my Instagram and Facebook accounts, uh, also now Loki has been hacked probably. No, he's back.
coughing?
Uh,
Sorry, I was coughing. Yeah.
no, okay. So my Twitter was hacked last night. No, not last night. The night between the 24th and the 25th. I woke up yesterday with an email on my email address that had always been linked, with my Twitter account, saying my email had been changed, and said if you haven't applied this change, please secure your account. And that's what I clicked, on the email by X, Twitter. So
Mhm.
that's what I did. The problem is that the hacker has now put in place a different two-factor authentication, and I cannot get past it because, of course, I don't have the backup code that he has. I don't have um, the authenticator app that he has. I have no way to get past it. So I'm not anxious. I'm not really disappointed. Honestly, I'm just really, really angry. Honestly, because it's like a battle for me. It's like a
Mm,
battle. You have challenged me, and I will overcome you. I
mm,
really sound like Liam Neeson now, but I'm very calm. I'm very determined. I won't rest until it's back. Honestly, I've
mm,
been sending non-stop emails because when that happens, uh, it's out of the blue. To be fair, because I had all the security measures in place. I actually, now looking back at it, I had a previous hacking account on February the 15th because I had received an email
mm,
saying that I had a unusual access to my account from an IP address located in Palermo, Sicily. I'm located in the north, so
mm,
doesn't match. And consequently, also an email saying a passkey, iOS passkey, had been added to my account. If you haven't done these changes, please secure your account, and that's what I did. So I changed my credentials and locked out every apart from my mobile phone. Any other device linked. So I protected my account back then. But I think that was the first attempt. I think it's a specific
mm,
target, because if you look at my Twitter, of course, I have almost 5,000 followers. So if you want to do like they did eventually a crypto scam post, you have 5,000 followers. The post has already been seen, by more than 5,000 people in terms of views. So it's actually really frustrating in a certain sense because you have to compile just forms, on the help center of Twitter X. So I compiled one for hacking, one for the two-factor authentication, but then you just have to keep pushing, you know. It also happened to other content creators recently. Kept pushing. I also sent direct emails, you know. I have to thank, honestly, the ones in the Leeds page that I tried to been shown solidarity to me. I also tried to be helpful, especially Jerry. I have to thank him because he's tried to help me and is actually trying to DM Twitter executives directly. So he's really trying to help me with that, because we saw that it actually worked with another YouTuber from Spain. You know, it had the same problem with me. Then they weren't resolving that with the queues, you know, with the tickets, the usual process. He managed to DM in some sort, you know. She actually, she's a woman. She managed to DM the head of product of Twitter, and in under an hour he replied, and then it got resolved. You know, a friend of mine had this Instagram account last year. I helped him, you know, and in 6 days they got him back. He had to send a video of himself, you know, talking. So yeah, honestly, it's not a good experience. It's still an experience, but I'm lucky that I didn't touch my other applications, my phone. I had my IT expert, you know, come into the office yesterday to scan the 2 computers, my home one that I had to take to the office and my work one. No viruses, so it's only confined into Twitter. But yeah, it's scary because when you have all the security measures in place and they still manage to hack it, there's nothing more you can do. You know, there's nothing more you can do, unfortunately. Now just have to reinstate my real email, you know, into that and unblock the two-factor authentication that the hacker has put in place. I'm talking about this because, of course, I want people to understand how it happened and actually do the right steps, you know, to secure your accounts. Because I did that, but they managed to do that anyway, unfortunately. But I'm really determined to get it back. I want to rest until it's back. And they've targeted the wrong person, man. You know, I was talking to the IT experts and they said that probably they are professionals. You know, one of them said to me, "That's how Russian hackers usually work." You know, I made a joke about that because they said the Russians. If they are Russian hackers, you know, they have targeted one whose surname is Russo, in Italian means Russian. So just to downplay that, you know, I need to keep the smile because it's actually really, it's not a good experience. I won't lie. Like I said, you know, I'm determined. I'm not anxious, but it's not a good experience, of course, because you feel like,
of course,
so that it feels like, you know, they have entered your phone or your computer, you know, in some sort, you know. But at least the positive thing is that we are still able, you know, to do the podcast. Of course, I cannot post anything Leeds related right now. I cannot follow anything Leeds related because I don't have access to Twitter, but hopefully it gets resolved, you know. But yeah, apart from that, you know, man, actually I've been also because the other problem when I get anxious, you know, it's about my health. Actually, I had for like from Monday last week to up to Thursday, I think I had like ear burning pain, you know. I am really anxious, so I said, oh, maybe I have something inclinated, you know, something broken. Then I put some cream, you know, some for the pain, and it actually is now going away. So you see, I am really really scared when I have like let's say a puncture, you know, like a little pain. I tend to think the worst, you know. But apart from that, you know, it's
See, I'm the opposite. I'm terrible. If there's something wrong with me, I'm like, it'll be fine. Give it a few days, and then that's it. Then, so we probably should, to be sensible, we should probably be somewhere in the middle of what we are. To be honest, if you feel a pain anywhere and you're worried about it, probably go speak to an expert and don't self-diagnose yourself, which is what I.
Especially on the internet. Especially on the internet, you know.
Don't look at the
because
internet.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
That's why I stopped. The internet, no matter what the problem is, the internet tells you, oh, you've got about 3 days to live. All right. So don't look on the internet. It's not good. Go see a doctor if you've got any pains. Yeah.
Yeah, but the other situation that I have, I've kept very private about that. But yeah, my grandma was in the hospital for 2 weeks, you know, because she had memory problems. Now she's out of the hospital. She went to a specific structure now. She's recovering. She's doing physiotherapy now. So yeah, hopefully she's on the mend. So at least that situation is resolved. She's 86, so very good life story too. I'm really inspired by what her and my granddad did. Because eventually they immigrated from southern Italy to northern Italy after an earthquake destroyed the house. In the 60s. So yeah, she's always been determined. She's always been determined, and I finally speak. So now she's slowly recovering, but at least she's recovering. Yeah. So that's the positive thing. And the other positive thing actually is that the positive run for Leeds is it's still going on. With the Villa game. Unfortunately, we could have taken the 3 points, but I know you see that coming when we were talking. I tried to be more no, not this time. This time, but eventually, man, it happened. So, what are your thoughts overall on the performance? I was pretty okay with that. Honestly, I was satisfied, man. That's the right word. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was happy with it. I just thought there's a little theme, and it's been all season. I think that's just who we are at this point. I don't think it's going to change. We have a lot of positives, but we also have things we need to improve. But at 20 odd games in the season now, I think that's just what we are and who we are. I don't think that's going to change. I think we are who we are, and I do. Just to clarify, I think what we are is good. Obviously, I love watching this team. I enjoy it. I think we're good enough to stay in the league without a doubt if we continue to play the way we are. But there's things in there that just annoy you. Whenever we are winning and it's against a decent team, it's not even the dropping deep that's the problem. It's the ability to get out of that. I don't have a problem with dropping deep. I actually think it's a good idea at times, and it works to some extent. But it's when we win it back, and within 3 seconds, one of our players has panicked to just booted it for a throw in or back to their centre back. That's the frustrating thing. I think there needs to be more guile and more calmness in those moments. People can talk about the manager, but for me, the problem isn't sitting deep. The problem is how we get out of that. There's no attempt to at times. It's just panic. And then because it's such a quick panic, we've not got out quick enough. So we're often a little too deep. And you can see certain players, just watch, certain players are saying, come on, higher, higher. But the defensive line is too deep. And it just amounts press. It means we can't press because there's no structure to press. And then they they quickly get the ball out wide again. And then suddenly it's in the same situation. They're at the edge of your box. So I feel like it's a frustrating thing that I'm just going to have to deal with for the rest of the season, that when we are winning in games away from home, we will have periods where we sit deep, we panic. And a lot of the time, or sometimes, not a lot, some of the times the opposition are going to score. It's frustrating, but again, like I said, that's who we are, I think, this season. And you're so far into the season that it's hard now to really change. And I think that's what we've seen in the last few months. We've seen who we are. We've seen what we're good at. We've seen what we need to improve on. But in the end, the positives outweigh the negatives. I mean, I was just very happy generally with the performance, mate, to be honest. Like, people forget how good Villa are. They were third in the Premier League.
Yeah.
We're playing third in the Premier League, and for the first half, looking like we're as good as them. I mean, that's so positive. Every player working hard, doing their jobs, not giving into the challenge. Every player trying to. I thought Calvert-Lewin, I know he didn't score, but for me, that was one of his best performances. The runs he made consistently were so impressive. It wasn't like he made 1 or 2 runs and he held the ball up well. Every time we got the ball in a certain area, Calvert-Lewin is stretching the defenders endlessly. I absolutely loved his performance. I thought he was really, really good. It was energetic when we needed an outlet in the first half where we couldn't quite play through him. He was always there. He was always effective. We probably could have won the game with Metch's header at the end. Again, that's who we are. We're a good team, but we're not perfect. And I'm all right with that. It is who we are. Yeah, they're going to frustrate me like they did in the second half. But it's whatever. It's football, mate. I like these players. I really do. I think we've got a really good squad. I wish we added to it. I'll keep saying that. But I really like this squad, mate. I just like our players. That goal, by the way. What on earth was that finish? That is world class.
Yeah, that's Ronaldinho versus Seaman
Yeah,
level.
yeah,
That's, to be fair, also honestly, apart from that, I agree with what you said. Eventually, that's who we are, and
yeah.
I think also the fact that I don't want to sound repetitive, but I think anytime there's one thing I notice, the changes that the opposition make are always
Mm,
effective, because they have impact players that can impact the
mm,
game, and that rarely happens now with us. It happened during the season, but they have top class players entering the pitch,
mhm,
or at least season Premier League players, because even Tammy Abraham, he returned in January, but he was effective. They put in Ross Barkley, another season Premier League player,
mm,
so the depth that other teams have is insane. The thing is, we had Gabby Goodmanson ill,
yeah,
taken out
yeah.
at the interval, and we put in Biol, and eventually I think that's something that changed the game, that substitution, because Gabby wasn't having a great game, to be honest, but at least the positioning was on point. He was misplacing a lot of balls,
Mm,
it wasn't effective. You could see something wasn't right with him back there, and eventually we found out he was ill. But at least the shape of the team was allowing us to be more conservative on that side, because Gabi wasn't pushing like he always does, but at least he had a good passing option in Gruev, and we were
mm,
effective also in switching the side, with Bogle making the run on the other side. We just,
mm,
they were able to stay higher, because eventually it was Rodon, Ampadu dropping, and also, of course, Pascal, not
mm,
Ampadu, sorry, Gruev was dropping, and yet Rodon, Strauk, and Gruev. Ampadu was, of course, in front of
mhm.
them. But it allowed us to be balanced for me, and it was effective. I think the first half game plan was spot on, was on point. They had studied well Villa. They were causing problems. Also with the through ball, the switching on the right side, the
Yeah,
DCR run that you mentioned, brilliant tactical pick
so
that.
good.
Because he was getting always, or at least very often. It's not always perfect. So let's say very often, ahead or behind Konsa with that run.
Yeah, yeah.
It was dragging him with him, so he was effective. They studied it well. Also, Aronson with his movement behind him, it was trying to exploit the free spaces. Then the substitution eventually, because of the illness of Gabi, changed everything. We were too deep.
Mm,
And I also thought, mate, that in the second half, we were attracting too much pressure. I think we texted each other with that during the game. So I would have liked Willy Nyonto, Dan James. Like, I think it was very similar to what happened with
mm.
Everton at that dock, at that dock in Liverpool.
Yeah, yeah, it
The
was. Yeah.
Dickinson Stadium, Bradley Moore Dock, yeah, that's the name of the new stadium. So I think that, okay, they made that change, on Mecha. The change that they made, let me see when it was made, 73rd minute, we
Mhm,
just made three changes. Biol at the half, Mecha in the 73rd minute, and Longstaff in the 83rd minute, for Anton Stack. So the sub with Aronson, he wanted to keep two physical players, to at least two very typical tall number nines, up
mhm.
front with DCL and Mecha. But I think we needed a player capable to run the counter like Willy
Yeah,
Nyonto, Adam James. I think
yeah.
it was a mistake that we already committed too many times this season, and eventually we paid for that because we were too deep into our own half. We were defending well, actually. We were defending well.
Mhm.
They didn't create enough chances.
No, 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 true.
We probably deserve more, out of the game, but the draw
Mm,
was the right result eventually. The only thing I'm not okay with, that makes my mind boil, it's that they score not with a proper setup, 1,
mm.
2, a through ball. They scored in a scrappy situation, So
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
all the situation they could have scored, they scored with a scrap situation where the ball went to the knee of Tammy Abraham, and behind DCL, with
Mm,
it looked like it was like a shadow of a Euro 2004, when we were kids, and Ibrahimovic with the heel, Italy versus Sweden. The ball took a trajectory and bypassed, Christian Vieri that was trying to edit, that was a similar situation. That was a deja vu, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you know what, mate? I think I said it last time. I think you just have to look at the mentality of individuals we have. Like later on in games, what is the mental? So, for example, I'll frame it like this. So, again, all relative to level, but mentality is the same. So, when I used to get the football, my first thought was never boot it. My first thought, even in ridiculous situations where it shouldn't have been, was I'm going to dribble out of this. That was always my first thought. Sometimes I'd lose it, sometimes it'd work, and we'd get a counter attack and we'd be in. I don't think we have many players with that mentality. Now, we have people can mention Okafor, obviously injured, but for me, Okafor, in a certain sense, is. But I'm talking about a pure midfield ball runner, ball carrier. We don't have it. Now, midfield ball carrier is different because wingers like to do it in wide areas, high up areas. I'm talking about players who can get it in any situation, use their body well, get out of tight areas and drive with the ball. We don't have that. You look at what we had on the pitch, Ampadu in midfield, defensive-minded, Gruev, defensive-minded, even Longstaff to a certain extent. He's not going to drive the ball. His first thought isn't, can I drive?
Balance.
Balance. Obviously Stack's more balanced. But we don't have a midfielder or a profile in the middle, whether that's a 10 or whatever, who can come on and be, right, I'll get it in deep areas and I'll drive with it and I'll try connect when we're really deep to the striker, because that's the problem in it. We can't connect to the striker when we win it in deep areas. It's just a boot. Sometimes it goes to the striker, sometimes it's in that area, but the centre-back always seems to win it because we're never really set and we don't have players around him. So for me, we lack that. Like Nonto, I know people will scream Nonto, but again, is he someone that's going to win it deep, really deep? Not really. He's the outlet. He's one of the guys you want as an outlet. We need that connector for me. I think that's what we lack. And we don't really have that profile. So I think that's just what we are going to have to deal with this season, which is fine. Like I said, I'm not bothered by that. It annoys me in game at times, but there's so much I like about this team. But we don't have that midfield mindset player, that midfield mindset, that player with the mindset of I can win it and sit in a deep block like we do. But when I get it, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to drive in past this guy who's pressing me, and then I'm in space, and then I can connect with the striker. That's the guy we're missing, I think, and we don't have that. But next season, obviously, hopefully, we're in the Premier League, touch wood. I think that's a key profile we need. Honestly, I do. Just for these situations, because they will continue. We're not next season we're going to become a European team with 90% possession every. It was the same situation. I think we'll play quite similar, but hopefully we'll have more depth and more options. But we'll play similar because it has worked for us, and it probably will work until maybe you get to the top end of the Premier League. But it will work for now. To solidify in the Premier League, we play the right way, in my opinion. I think it's a good way to play. It can be conservative, but it also doesn't leave you wide open. Like you said, they had a lot of pressure, but there was not loads of clear chances. And there never really is, apart from maybe Arsenal or, We're usually quite solid. A lot of chances come from scrappy situations, good one-on-one moments, players not marking their man. Like, it's never we get spread open and played through. It's usually quite conservative. But yeah, it's one of them. It's a great point away at Villa Park. Absolutely. I mean, in isolate things, you can come after that. You can be annoyed at the goal late on, but you can look at that as a squad and go, you know what, lads, we've done well again there. We really did. And you could look at it, and Metch can look at himself and go, if I score that diving header, we probably win the game. And that's fine. Take that confidence, because you're going into Man City where, I mean, you'll take anything. First of all, you need to pray that they have a bad day, because even if we're good, if Man City are all right, they'll probably win the game. We need Man City to have a bad day, and we need to be on it. But yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm happy with it. Honestly, I tend to be happy with most things these days with the team because I just enjoy it. Like, I think we both accept that we have our flaws. We know that. We've spoke about them. But that's not us saying, oh, this is not good enough. It's us saying, the squad has its flaws. Like, it's obviously going to. Next year, we'll have different problems we'll have to solve. This year's problems are just a few profiles for me and maybe a few sub-decisions and stuff like that. But, yeah, man, happy with it, honestly, generally speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's also be, another one of the problems probably is, I agree with you on the fact that we always said that eventually we are missing some profiles, of course, the ball runner, the ball carrier. The best one we have, realistically, looking at our midfielders in terms of pace, is Tanaka. But of course, he's now down the pecking order, and the club invested to bring Facundo Buonanotte, of course, different role, attacking midfielder. That's the role of Aronson basically, but looks like he doesn't even make the bench, the last game. The previous one, it doesn't look well the start of life that he has at the Leeds United. I believe they need to find a role for him eventually because he's a good player. But he had his chance, at Birmingham in the FA Cup, but wasn't great. Wasn't great. So there's always be competition, because now you have Dan James back. If you look at our bench, at Villa, of course, Okafor is injured, but looking at attacking-minded players, you have Dan James, Willy Gnonto, and Joel Pirou. Then you have basically three forwards. You have two midfielders, Longstaff and Tanaka, basically. Two defenders, Biol and Bornau, and also another forward. Sorry, so 4 forwards with the Mecha. So there's competition because Farke, remember the situation with Charlie Cresswell when he wasn't even making the bench. The situation with there was another one. I don't remember now. There was another one before Cresswell where he wasn't calling. I think it was with Matteo Joseph once when he didn't call him up and he said expect players to perform in training.
I think it's Ramazani. Was it Ramazani?
Yeah, it was Ramazani, not Joseph. Ramazani, So there's always be competition. We know how Farke works or how he operates, But I agree on that, Buonanotte probably or Aronson, but then you have to change the formation, add that profile that can carry the ball. That was the formation we used to play last season, though the 4-2-3-1. We cannot play that anymore. We are built in a different way in terms of shape, despite not having the depth for that. But the profile is missing for sure, and the only one is Tanaka. Eventually, if you stack off for Sean Longstaff, you get a more conservative player, but there's not much difference in terms of ball progression. So you didn't bring a midfielder that can get you out of the pressure with the ball after recovering the ball. It's always been an issue this season because even when we were playing with a back four, and I always take the game of at City Ground, in Nottingham as an example. When you were playing with a back four, then you were forced to, because you didn't have the wing backs, staying higher up the pitch. We were forced to progress forward because we wanted to play our offensive football with the 3 midfielders, but then they didn't have the pace to track back. Now we have the intensity if we are in the right shape, but that relies a lot on the wing backs, and on the strikers, actually, the striker and the 2 forwards behind him, to keep the pressure higher up the pitch. And unfortunately, if you don't have a proper replacement for that, you get what happened in the second half, with there's always that gap between DCL and Aronson and the rest of the team eventually. Because you took Gudmundsson out, and Gudmundsson, if you look at his position, was basically occupying the area behind, or near the halfway line, After he changed, with Justin and Bogle, they weren't allowed to do what they were doing in the first half. So we were more conservative and we were extracting pressure. The thing is, we are really, the right word I think can be, we are really destined, for a specific formations, a specific shape. Because if you take one player out, then you are forced to be more defensive minded. There's no other way. The only other way is probably bringing also another forward, because when we were too deep, it was always Aronson and DCL. So behind one of the 2 sides, there was always that gap in terms of progression, and we needed 2 forwards to keep the pressure and the balance of the team higher, because off the ball, when the 2 forwards are pressing a lot or occupying the center backs, like it happened with Forest. Forest is the perfect example, with Okafor and Aronson, behind DCL. That is effective. When we don't have that, we are not that effective, So the way forward for me, mate, is always 3-4-2-1. It's always 3-4-2-1 for me.
Yeah, I just want to focus on Buonanotte a second, because I don't think we've actually spoke too much about him. So one thing I am going to say is, now there's people saying he's overweight. He's not overweight. We wouldn't assign the player that's overweight. Look at it's just his face. He's got a chubby face. As a fellow chubby faceman, I can tell you he's not overweight. When I grow my beard out, I look like I've gained weight the second I shave it. I just don't have a jaw. He's like me. He just doesn't have an amazing jawline. You know, it's just the way it is. He's not chubby.
When you grow your beard, you are Alexis McAllister.
Yeah. And when I'm not, I look like an egg. But yeah, he's not overweight. It's so easy to say that. He wouldn't have signed. We wouldn't have signed. If he came to the medical overweight, we wouldn't have signed him. You know, the club isn't run like that. Even if people say we're desperate, we're not that desperate. We know that. We wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Farke would not have accepted an overweight player. It's just not match sharp. He's not fit. He can be not fit and not overweight. He's not fit yet. You have to remember, Buonanotte didn't play much the second half of last season at all at Leicester. He started the first half of the season. Obviously, they sacked the manager, Steve Cooper, and brought in, was it Ruud van Nistelrooy?
Van Nistelrooy.
And they had a falling out or something, whatever. He didn't play much. Goes to Chelsea this season. Didn't play hardly any. So we brought in a player that's hard to playing in the season, you know, in a year from January to January. So he's not going to be match sharp. And that's why maybe he could have been against the signing. That's where maybe it goes against what the Farke said, where we're only bringing in players who can improve us, who are ready. Well, he clearly isn't ready. He's clearly not fit, and he's clearly not nowhere near sharp enough. But he's not overweight. That's too much. That's ridiculous. But what I will say on that is, I am seeing the opposite side of that. Of he needs to play, he has to play, based on what, like based on his name, based on how good he did 1 year ago, the start of last season. It's ridiculous. He's coming into a successful team. He's coming into a team that is playing well, a tight-knit group who play for each other, fight for each other, perform for each other. Every player in that team ups the other's performance. That's the team he's coming into. A lot of this team won the league in the Championship last year together. That's the team he's coming into. You cannot just come into a team. I'm not saying him, by the way. I'm saying people that are saying this should happen. Not here. People are saying he should just come in and play. He has to play. He's better than da-da-da. Maybe he is better. Maybe he's more talented. But if you're not fit or sharp, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
It's not FIFA. It's not FIFA. Yeah. Where
Yeah.
you have the value, the overall value, of the player.
Yeah. If you bring Ronaldinho out of retirement and go, right, he should play. Well, no, you can't run more than 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? He shouldn't. He doesn't deserve a right to play. He deserves a right to train and work hard and get into the team. And that's what he hopefully he is doing. And Farke's already mentioned training. When you're not in the squad, people think you just need to train well and you'll get in. No. You need to train better than everyone else. That's the level you need to be at. If Tanaka wants to play over Gruev or Ampadu, Tanaka has to play better than them two in training. He has to do more. You can't just level them. You've got to do more. You want to start over them. This is down to you. If Buonanotte wants to play, whether that's over Aronson, he's got outperforming at training. And that ain't happening. That just ain't happening.
Also taking your chances too. Because AO wasn't great at Birmingham. He wasn't great at Birmingham.
It wasn't.
None of them were, to be fair. None of them.
Tanaka was good earlier on in the season. He was. People forget. People say he's been bad. He was really good at the start of the season. He dropped off. That's fine. That happens. That's form. But no one's saying he should start. Well, most start. And I'm not saying he should. He's probably my favourite player. He shouldn't start right now. He's not earned the right to start. Gruev has. Ampadu has. That's where we're at. Tanaka hasn't deserved the right to start. Stack has, obviously. It's the same for Buonanotte. Exactly the same. He's got to do more than his peers at training to impress the manager. He's coming into this team. He's not proven anything to Farke. I don't care what you did at the start of last season or the first half of last season. What have you done for me? What have you done for this team to prove you can start? You got a chance at Birmingham. Obviously a good team, generally speaking. But in the grand scheme of things, not as good as every team will play every week in the Premier League. And it was very poor. Yeah. And then people say, oh, well, he's not sharp. They did it. Deal with it. That's football. It's not always fair. Some people get more opportunities than others. That's where you've got to have the mental resilience to take your opportunity when you get it. So many footballers have done that. They've come in for one game. I hate to use this example. I know people are going to get really mad at me. Marcus Rashford, when he broke through at Man United. No one ever heard of him. These good wingers, yeah. Played well, came on, played well. All right. That's it then. There's loads of examples where players have come in, done well for 10 minutes. Tanaka's a great example last season in the Championship. Weren't playing at the start of the year. Came in, did well, got a little more minutes the game after, played well again, then got his start, played well, kept his place. Simple as that. Biol is a good example as well. Obviously, we changed formation, but when he came in the back three, played well, kept his place. Justin as well. You could probably argue he's now playing so consistently where if Bogle has a bad game, Justin's going in. Or if Goodmanson isn't fit, Justin's going in. That's what Buonanotte needs to do. That's up to him. It's not on the manager. It's not on anyone else. It's on him to prove to the manager that I'm doing more than these around me to start. So that's all I want to say on. I'm not saying he isn't, by the way. I'm sure he is working his hardest.
It's fair. Absolutely. I agree with that because that's the essence of competition and keeping a squad focused during the week leading up to the game, because you need to prove a case for yourself to start. And in the end, if we go back to the game at St. Andrews, the players that haven't played much this season were given a chance and they didn't prove their case, to be fair, to get a look in for the Villa game. Of course, different competitions, but even during that game, I think the most interesting thing for us as fans was, okay, we're gonna see Buonanotte, we're gonna see other players that have played less this season. Let's see how they play, and eventually we were disappointed, because we said, and that's still the problem, because like I said, Villa have depth, other teams have depth, players that can impact the game, every team above us has depth, even behind us, like Tottenham, they have better depth than us, of course, different resources, of course. But the thing is, if I look at our bench, I rarely see right now a player that can impact the game. Honestly, a player that can improve what we have in his position already in the starting 11. So right now the starting 11 is done and dusted. There's no doubt about that. If they are all available, the starting 11 is what we've seen at Villa, probably par a midfielder with Okafor going alongside Aronson behind DCL, despite all his issues, because he's still an ups and down player, but eventually before he got injured during the last couple of games, during the recent run, at least he was running non-endlessly, he was running non-stop. He was trying to get more involved, He looked like a different Okafor. Of course, he was still making mistakes, especially decision making when he dribbles, going inside, shoot the ball. I keep saying this. I've kept saying this, since the start of the season. Going inside, shoot. Don't do an extra touch every time. He has the opportunity to shoot. But at least he's worked on his game. You can see that. And if there's an award like in the NBA, for most improved player of the season so far, people probably will say Aronson, but I think Aronson was effective too last season. Of course, we found the role suited for him in this formation. But the most improved player is, without a doubt, for me, Ilya Gruev, honestly, because he's always been a six pivot, an Ampadu. Now he's adapted and he's starting week in and week out. And it's not starting week in and week out because for different reasons, like we don't have players available or something like that. Now we have Longstaff back. We have Tanaka on the bench. Groove is still starting. It's not the case of what people kept saying at the start of the season, like, but Farke loves that player. He will keep starting Aronson despite him not being effective. People said that about Gruev too. But Gruev has proven that you cannot afford now to leave him out, because in this formation he is crucial in the build-up. He always provides a passing option. He usually does one touch, passes the ball. He did a lot of switches towards the right hand side where Justin and Bogle were, in the first half. And it's also when we are able to stay higher, like in the Forest game, for example, he isn't also pressed by the opposition, because he really struggles when he's pressed because he doesn't have much pace. And that was always the main worry for me of him going into the Premier League, because you watch a lot of the Bundesliga, mate. So that defenses, there's this might too, but it actually has some truth behind it. The defenses aren't great, in terms of pressure. The forward, the offensive players driving that league. It's still a great league for me to watch, but you don't have the pressure that you have in the intensity that you have in the Premier League. So that was my main worry for him going into the Premier League. I struggled to see him as a Premier League player, but now he's worked hard and he's earned his place in the team because he has adapted his game. He shaped his game. This groove is a different groove compared to the one that arrived at Leeds and played with Leeds in the Championship. Completely different player, It's not that he has improved or developed in terms of when you develop and reach your full potential. It's just adjusted his game to different instructions, and he understood what he need to do. He doesn't need to be the number 6 pivot now. It needs to be like a link-up player, a player vital for the balance. When you have the space to get forward off the ball, like he did against Forest, to be like an advanced playmaker, you can do that. But you also need to be near Ampadu, near the left-hand side, like he did at Villa, to be that link-up player in the build-up. So for pride to him, honestly, because I was surprised on it. He worked hard and he shaped his game to adapt to the level of the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. You have to look at there's this conversation all the time about talent and what that means and what it is in football. You look at Ramazani scoring a great finish, by the way. What a goal. You look at that and go, what a player. And then you look at that and go, well, why at every team he's going to is he not consistently playing? It's not a talent thing, isn't it? Ramazan is ridiculously talented. Look where he came through. Look at the teams he's been at. Look at the opportunities he's got. Look at some of the goals he's got. Some of the things he did for Leeds at the start of that season where he was really good. He's so talented. But then why, in 4 years, of maybe 5, has he not started loads of games back to back without injury, by the way? Why is that? There's more than talent in football. I look at Gruev, and do you think Gruev became a professional footballer because he was by far the best player on every pitch? You know what I mean? He didn't become a professional footballer because he scored 30-yard screamers. You know what I mean? No. I mean, obviously, he was very, very technically sound. Obviously, football is very good. And he obviously stood out from that perspective. But if Gruev didn't have the kind of mentality or calmness or kind of ability to adjust that he has, he wouldn't have been a professional footballer. That's why he is. I mean, like you said, if you can go from the Championship, and let's be honest, he wasn't even a consistent starter in that team. Tanaka was in and out with him, depending on injuries. And you can come to the Premier League for the first time, and after a few maybe dodgy weeks, just settle in. You are so strong mentally, and your game IQ is so good. A lot of footballers, not only are they talented or ridiculously good with the ball at their feet, but they understand the game. They understand, right, how can I improve? How can I get better? He has clearly worked extremely hard on figuring out them answers for himself. That's why he's playing for Leeds United in the Premier League and starting every game, and that's why he deserves to. He's clearly a hard worker in training. Again, he doesn't have the natural talent in terms of flair or dribble, all the fun stuff. He doesn't have all that going for him. But what he does have is clearly extremely hard work, consistency as well, does his job at a reliable rate every game. And that to a manager is security. And that's what every manager wants. Every manager wants a Gruev in their team. Whether that could be an attacker, that could be a wing back, but they want that type of player that they are guaranteed that they will do exactly what they ask. Now, we'll go back to talented players, Ramazani, for example. There's loads of think of any winger, basically. Any 1v1 winger, any flair player, right? Ramazani is just a Leeds example because he's got a really good goal. Managers love that. But that's one moment in a game. There's no consistency in that, right? He's not going to score that goal every 3 minutes. Do you know what I mean? But Gruev is going to be in the right area every minute. He might have 1 or 2 moments in a game where he's in the wrong area, he makes the wrong decision. Whereas a flair player might be in the wrong area 15, 20 times in the game. And then that affects the entire team. That affects the shape of the team. That affects the press. That affects, dropping back in transition, that affects in a low block, that affects everything. So that's the consistency that is required to be a top footballer. I'm not saying Ramazan is a better footballer than Grev. I mean, the different roles, it's hard to compare. But you know what I mean? Ramazani can score them goals. Grev ain't scoring them goals, right? Although he nearly did score a screamer, to be fair.
Yeah, you can take a Spurs player, as a comparison for Guruv, honestly. Mate, like one of the midfielders, you can see that they are more talented than Guruv, but they are struggling at the minute,
Yeah. Yeah, I could use a midfielder. Yeah, Ramazani is the example because everyone was saying he should play for Leeds. After that goal, he should start for Leeds. If he could do that, but then also the rest of his game is consistent, both on and off the ball, fine. But it's not working at Valencia. He doesn't start. That's not our problem. It was our problem. With Corberan. It was Farke's problem. Now is it Corberan's? Look at before he came to us as well. He didn't play consistently in terms of starting. He came on and played a lot of minutes. He'd play about 60 minutes a game and he'd get hooked off the last 30, or he'd get the last 30 minutes. That's a talent, a really big talent. So why has he not made it to the top yet at 25 years old? There's a consistency thing there. But yeah, you're right. You could look at loads of players in the Premier League, loads of midfielders, A lot of them are probably more technically gifted than Guev. They're probably quicker than Guev off the mark. They're better with the ball than Guev. But he's so consistent in what he does. And that consistency brings reliability. And that is what them in the middle, particularly, that is what a manager needs. The same with Calvert-Lewin. Is Calvert-Lewin going to take 3 men on and dribble the ball, do some step overs, create a chance for himself? No. But is he going to stand in the box and score a goal if you give him a chance? Absolutely. That is reliability. That is consistency. That's why Calvert-Lewin has played for England. That's why he scored 16 goals in the Premier League when he was fit for a season. That's why he's doing it for Leeds. It's not because he's a better footballer than... You could even look at, I don't think any striker that doesn't score goals but is really talented. Whilst Calvert-Lewin doing it because he works hard, he keeps his head down, he's reliable, and what he does works. And that's the key for me. It's consistency and reliability. Same for Nonto.
And a good example, yeah. And a good example, DCL.
Yeah, so there's loads of players as well. One of my, you look at a good example is Messi. Like Messi is a good example as a winger that, although he's a winger, he was extremely reliable. Everything he did was great. Mo Salah, another winger that Mo Salah's probably the one, he wasn't the type of player that would drive 30, 40 yards with the ball and take 4 guys on, but he'd get it near the edge of the box. And you knew when he was at the edge of that box exactly what was going to happen. He's going to do a little trick, cut inside or go on the outside and find a corner. That's the reliability and consistency that you need from players. And a lot of wingers that are so talented that could be that if they find their way to affect games more consistently, but are not. So that's the difference for me between talent and a reliable, consistent player. I think the two are different. And when you get a talented player, right, let me just clarify. When I say they're all talented, they're professional footballers. I say talented, I'm talking about game changers, right? When you have a game changer who is consistent and reliable, you've hit the jackpot because they're worth 60, 70 million minimum. Rafinha, for example. So, yeah.
Yeah, and people always talked about Rafinha, actually, like he wasn't world class when he was at Leeds. It was out of this world for Leeds. Like they said, how did this guy used to play for Leeds? Like he was, a diamond in the rough at Leeds. Let's remember that when we signed him, he had just qualified for the Champions League with Rennes. So, and he had played for Sporting Lisbon, for Sporting Clube de Portugal in Portugal. So he wasn't particularly unknown. We got him for a cheap deal. I think it was around 15, 16 when we signed him during COVID after that COVID season. But he was already, of course, it took time at the start to adapt him to the Premier League. But after that, when he clicked, boom, it was always was close. And talking about Rafinha, actually, it's a good link to talk about something else, that came up during the week, because I'm sure people have noticed, but Leeds United are always in the minds and the mouths of everyone, especially people who haven't been remembered in a positive way at the club. especially after that season, because there's been the spat between Big Sam Allardyce, the rift between Big Sam Allardyce that criticized, Jesse Marsch and Avi Gracia, saying that basically sent dicks at them, then said the two managers after Bielsa allowed the physical stats to drop into the Premier League bottom three. I thought that's what it said, but Big Sam, I thought if we are in the top six, at least we are fit enough to stay in the game, organize ourselves, I think in the end, and then after that, Marsh, of course, replied with a tweet, showing some stats, and people criticized him, someone said, you didn't achieve anything at Leeds, and he said, except keep the team up. Probably was forgetting that the team had a very bad record when he was sacked, especially in a season when in the summer, something that many managers didn't have the chance to, especially Marcelo Bielsa, he didn't have the chance to sign that number of players. Let's not forget that season, using the money of Phillips and Rafinha, we signed players that were recommended by Jesse Marsch, Rasmus Christensen, managed by RB Salzburg, Brendan Aronson, who wasn't the actual Aronson at the time, Mark Roca, Tyler Adams. All these players, were recommended and were signed for Jesse Marsch. So he had this team, he had this team and failed to get results, and eventually came to the questionable timing, because it was sacked one game after the transfer window ended, when McKennie made his debut, just after one game. He didn't have the time to work with that squad, after the transfer window with Weber, etc. But my idea, man, is that both these three managers, all of them weren't good for Leeds, because Marsch, was focused on, it didn't glued with the environment, because Leeds fans need a manager that doesn't put himself in the spotlight. That's why they like Farke now, and that's why they always like Marcelo Bielsa. They like managers that epitomize, that they are the image of side before self. Bielsa always put the spotlight to his players, to the fans, always left the spotlight to them. He never developed a cult of personality, People developed it for him, because in the end, the things that he was saying, the way he was carrying himself, with the way he was speaking, and also his actions spoke at the time for himself, and that's why people have developed a cult of personality for him, Marsch, on the other hand, is always tried to defend his work. When he arrived, he said that the players weren't fit, then said, I respect Marcelo and everything, but that's not the thing that you do when you sign for a new club. As a manager, criticize the physical training that was done before you. Now, Sam Allardyce has done the same. I think that all of them, I keep saying, honestly, that season, the best manager we have was Michael Scrubala for those two games against Man United. He was the best manager. He was the one that got least the most out of the three permanent ones that we have. In the end, the responsibility lies with Victor Orta, with Andrea Trizzani, with Angus Kinnear. I think it lies with them how that season was handled compared to the previous seasons, especially the one when we got up, and the other one, the so sexy one. But I don't know about you, but I don't like this try to reevaluate a manager's job. In the end, the fans saw what happened on the pitch, and the football that was played that season was terrible, regardless of the manager, because of the things going on behind the scenes too. That's my point of view, at least.
Yeah, I think, just to quick on Scubala, he's doing such a good job at Lincoln now, by the way. I caught, it was on Now TV, one of the live games a few weeks ago, and they play some really good football as well. It's like genuinely fun to watch. Scubala, I'm not going to talk too much about Scubala, but did a lot of research on him when he joined the 21s, and he obviously comes through a futsal background, an educational background as well, was a lecturer as well, did a lot of work with university. I think it was Loughborough, I believe. So he's a very smart individual. He's done a lot of stuff about the game, a lot of research, and it's good to see an academic putting what he's learned in different sides of football, with the futsal side in education and making it work in a football environment. So good luck to him. Honestly, he's doing a ridiculously good job with Lincoln with a small budget as well. So yeah, excited to see what the future holds for him as well. Just like Pablo, I guess, as well, who's doing a really good job. A ridiculous job. But Yeah. Do you know what I think Jesse Marsch's problem was? And I look at Arne Slot when he went into Liverpool. He didn't change much first season. Now he's just changed it now, and it's not working as well. But last season, when Klopp left, he kept a lot the same. These players are so dedicated to the way Klopp played that the second anyone comes in and tries to change so much and go, no, that's all wrong, they're going to go, I don't know.
Yeah.
So Slot came in and probably changed it a little bit, but he kept it very similar in the way they played. And the players knew what they were doing because they'd won leagues doing it, right? Similar to an extent in what Bielsa did. You know, a lot of the players were literally tuned to play that way every single day. They had to weigh a certain amount. Like, this was a serious dedication. Although I'm not silly to the fact that I'm sure a few footballers were relieved or got a bit frustrated with what Bielsa was doing. Obviously, you are. If you're doing all that stuff and not winning games, you're going to be very annoyed. But I think what happened was Jesse Marsch came in, and it seemed like he tried to change everything. The entire mentality, the entire vibe, the entire feeling, way too quickly. I think what Jesse Marsch should have done, the best thing he could have done, was to come in. You know, like I said, he criticised the physical side of it, kept that as similar as possible, maybe a little bit down. Don't change your mentality. Don't try to change the way we play too much. Maybe make it a little more secure. But we tried to play attacking football in a certain extent, but a completely different style. Completely different. And the players just didn't adjust to that. So many. It's like, imagine you're at work and you come in tomorrow and your desk is in a different place and there's 15 new people standing around you saying, oh, everything you did, we're using a new software, we're using this program now. You're going to go, what? Wait, what? What? And it'll take you months to adjust to that. And so you might not even adjust to it. You might not even like it. Especially if you're settled in that job and you've been doing it for 5 years and everything works, you've got a system. Suddenly that's getting ripped up and you're going, what is this? That's what it is. It's their job. You know, everything's different. Everything that you've dedicated your entire life to for years, won leagues with, by the way, and gone through defeats with, you know, in the playoffs. Everything, you finished 9th in the Premier League doing this, has been ripped up. So that was the issue. And then what we saw was, we stayed up. Just about some brilliant work by Rafinha. Obviously, we know if he wasn't in that team, we were not staying in that league. He dragged us through it, and that's why I have so much respect for that man. He's such a perfect role model for me. He's Rafinha. That's a guy that 100%. That's a guy that, look at like Wolves or teams down there that are guaranteed relegation or in that relegation. They're in there because their top players are not performing well. His didn't drop. He knew next year I'm probably not going to be here. That he could have easily gone, that's not my problem. No, he went, no, I will keep Leeds in the Premier League. I will do everything I can. I absolutely love that, especially modern football, where players will be onto their agent going, I'm not bothered about this, get me out of here. No, he wanted to stick around. He wanted to do the job for the team, for the fans. And then against Brentford, he was a joke, went into the crowd, did his praying on the pitch, and I'm just, perfect. Yeah. So for me, go on.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, mate, just for me, it didn't work because for me, he changed everything too quick. The fans didn't like that, who also loved Bielsa, regardless of the frustrations. There was deep love for him, for what he did to this club. To then, in your first interview, or one of the first interviews, criticise the way he trained, which got us to the point where we were, you were never going to win him, and then come out in interviews and say about all this stuff. Everything happened too quickly. You needed an experienced head to come in, to be calm, calculated, not change too much, just adjust some little things. Maybe that would have worked. But by the time Allardyce came in, I mean, 4 games, I mean, he's not going to do anything anyway, but he'd not been in a job for a year. It was, I actually have a lot of respect for Sam Allardyce as what he did for a while back now, but in English football, in terms of analysis and data, he actually was one of the first pioneers in this country to do stuff like that. So, but we're talking about 2020s, it's different kettle of fish.
I tend to forget that he managed Leeds, to be fair, when I remembered. the recent years. Honestly, I keep wondering sometimes when I'm thinking about the past. Like, did that really happen? Did we really finish that season with Sam Allardyce in charge? Of course, a lot of respect, but he was from a different era. But I was looking actually at the results of the first season. Because in the end, people kept replying and saying Rafinha kept you up in that season. And when Marsch arrived, first and foremost, without the proper transfer window, we were ripped by injuries. I remember Phillips was injured. We played games where we had bench full of youngsters, that season with Bielsa. Then he had, after the transfer window ended, this was the schedule that he had to face. Villa away, 3-3. Remember that mad game, always mad games at Villa Park. Everton away, Manchester United at home, Liverpool away, Tottenham. Then he was sacked after Tottenham, when we lost 4-0. And that was actually the final game of Stuart Dallas' career, that one. If I remember correctly. Yeah, it was. Or was the season after? I cannot remember now.
Dallas. It was Man City, yeah. Because it was
Man City, true.
Grealish, wasn't it?
Yeah, true. That game. Yeah, but that was when he was. I think Dallas had a great opportunity that game, and he missed that chance, because that's why I had that misshape, that confusion. But yeah, Marsch arrived. So first 2 games, lost against Leicester, lost against Villa. Then end of the game against Norwich, we were really in trouble, relegation. Edging towards relegation. Gellert winner, assisted by Rafinha in the 94th minute.
Yeah.
Then Wall at Wolves, 91st minute. They come back with Ailing during the Robbie Keane celebration. Then I remember this game actually 1-1 against Saints at home. Terrible game, that one. I think it was Ward-Prowse free kick maybe. Then 1 at Watford, we were in trouble. Terribly were already gone back then. Then a goalless draw at Palace was a decent game, that one. Then 3 losses, consecutive ones: Man City, Arsenal, and Chelsea. Then 92nd header by Struijk against Brighton. That eventually was fundamental to stay up. And then the final game against Brentford, where we should remember that Newcastle beat Burnley. And during the week, I think before, there was Aston Villa Burnley, and Tyrone Mings made a goal clearance, on the line.
I remember that. Yeah.
I think we stay up for Rafinha and the moments eventually, because if I remember the period of Jesse Marsch at Leeds, even the season after where he got his team, there was never a wind of change. I think Jesse Marsch was to Marcelo Bielsa what Brian Clough was to Don Revie. I said that, but I think that's what happened eventually. He tried to change it too quickly, like you said. He tried to change it too quickly, because even the season after, he got his team, he got the signing, but we started well, 2 wins, 1 draw. Then we lost at Brighton. Then there were, after the win against Chelsea, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game winless run. Then there were the 2 wins against Liverpool and Bournemouth in the dying stages of the game. Then lost at Spurs, that mad game again. Then Man City lost again. Remember that game too, when now Alan scored,
Yeah.
Then we were winless, when he was sacked, because after that, draw against Newcastle, draw against West Ham, lost against Villa, draw against Brentford, and then first game after the transfer window ended 1-0 loss at Forest, So it wasn't a great run, But eventually he had the tools, to change it, because that team honestly had more depth than the current one, because they had made the signings, actually. They had made the signings. Probably there was just, because Bamford was never fit, Remember that Angus Kinnear saying writing in the program, we had 2 international strikers in Patrick Bamford and Rodrigo. We needed another one. We signed, actually, the 9 that we needed in January with Rotter. It wasn't a 9 back then, and it still isn't eventually. But at the time, at least Rodrigo was making the signings that we needed to do. He was trying to salvage the situation after the mess that they had made with the not backing Bielsa and the sack of Bielsa. Because in the end, the capital punishment, the original error is not backing Bielsa in the summer of 2021 after the 9th place finish. That's the when the Pandora box opened. That's the start of our struggles, recent struggles. But eventually That's the origin for me. That's the origin,
And it was it Firpo and Dan James who brought that
Firpo,
win?
Dan James, and Christopher Clayson.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But again, you look at selling, we just didn't sell any big assets, really. When we had, obviously we sold after we sold Phillips and Rafinha, but between the first season, we didn't sell any big assets. We had nothing to sell. So that's what down to. That's why it's important to build squads and improve players and players to get better, so you can actually sell them, so you can buy more. And it was a bad decision, and it paid off terribly. And Bielsa even said later on that, he said, you replace them or replace me, it won't work. They're aging players. They're old. They're getting older. Their bodies, the way I play is the way I play. And we need fresh players every few years. That's the way it is. And we were still relying on Ayling and Dallas and Cooper at that point, and Click. They're old. They were late. They were early 30s at that point. Tyler Roberts, yeah. It was a strange period for the club, but a very frustrating one, because after that 9th place finish, there's genuine chance that if things had been better in that window, or we'd have changed the ownership then, I genuinely believe now we'd be still sitting around the area, maybe challenging for Europe, like the likes of Villa are, or even like Bournemouth, or that we won't be in this relegation fight. But that happened. We got a reset, and I got to see my team win almost every game for 2 years. So I guess swings and roundabouts. But yeah, we're back now, and this is it now. Well, let's not repeat past mistakes. What we've done now, and I think this is what's really important. I had a conversation with Jack. Big up Jack, by the way. I had a little voice note with him in a few days ago about, this Farke conversation where people said, "Oh, Farke this, Farke that. Farke should have gone up with that team." It's so funny, that narrative, because look at every single team that went down last year and look where they are now. Ipswich are finally getting back to it. But what have Ipswich kept? The manager, consistency, players. Look at Sunderland.
The core of the team. Yeah.
Exactly. Look at Southampton. Sheffield United, even Leicester.
No, Sheffield United. I tend to say that they were relegated last season, but actually the season before. That's true. A common mistake.
But the 3 went down. Ipswich are the ones that kept the manager. Didn't start off great in the Championship, but look at them now. They're flying. The other 2 changed everything. Look at them. Look where they are. Southampton, they've won a few games now. They're doing all right. But Leicester, problems. Farke came in and brought in consistency and stability. And we all said that is so important. People, it don't matter about. It's the most important thing. Look at Leicester's team. They should they should be top of the league with that squad. They've got ridiculous players in there for the Championship. Why are they not? Because they changed it. The infrastructure was different. They didn't have a leader in charge. We brought in a leader in Daniel Farke. And yes, it didn't work the first season, but we were still very good. And then in the second season, it did. And now, that consistency that we kept, similar to Bielsa, similar story. We came in, not the biggest squad in the league, whatever, finished, playoffs. We won't talk about that. Season after, came back, more motivated, won the league, finished 9th. Now, obviously, Farke isn't Bielsa, and this is a different type of team. That was a team that was purely based on playing that way, completely different league. Yeah, we were super, super physical. We were fitter than everyone else. That's why we won games. Now it's different. But the underlying point is we kept the manager. We had faith in the manager because he is the leader. He brings everyone together. We don't want to take risks. We don't need to right now. Because I'm already seeing people, Andrea, that's saying if we do stay up, we've got to move on from Farke. And it's so easy to think.
I have a worry. Honestly, about that because, I don't know, honestly. I hope they do, honestly, because he's a manager that has proven himself that he can be the one leading, especially he's been the face of the club for 3 years now. During the good and bad times, always show his face, always also took the fall for others too.
Yeah.
Especially during that, it wasn't easy. Like you said, we found a leader that summer 2 years ago when we had the relegation clause mayhem going on behind the scenes. We had players going off left and right. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. He always was the one bringing the calmness to the table for Leeds. And that's, I think that I really have a lot of respect for him
Mm-hmm.
really do, because Farke men's management is underrated for me. It's absolutely underrated. You can criticize him on take Ramazani, take Matteo Joseph as examples, from the med manager to certain players, The mistake that he made probably is Charlie Cresswell, because Charlie Cresswell, I think, deserved a chance and he never really got a chance. Others had the chance, But eventually, he's always given a route back into the team to players who were less involved. I'm sure he has a route back for Tanaka, he has a route back for Bonanotte. No, he will give chances out to players, but it's up to them to take them. Eventually, Matteo Joseph, let's not forget, Matteo Joseph had started number 9 last season for Leeds. And Ramazani had started lots of ups and downs. People still see the assists and goals, but he wasn't consistent. He was good, but it was still ups and downs, And after that happens sometimes in football, When he was injured, they had players performing in his role, same as Willy Gnonto. Solomon and John James were performing amazing in that role. You couldn't take them out. They were performing week in and week out, and the competition was too big for them, because eventually every time they played, they were making an impact. Dan James and Solomon. So even the fact that people keep saying it's madness for me when I read people saying like, but let's look at Ramazani. He scored that goal. He scored that at Valencia. Farke didn't play him. He gave us Solomon. Solomon it was our best player last season. I don't know what people are talking about. But yeah, people like when players are have flavors. In terms of skills, dribbles, tackles. That one, but eventually I have a lot of respect for Farke. I think his man management is underrated, and I really hope we see him as a long-term solution. Of course, he has a contract for next season. If they see that there are differences behind the scenes, because I think there were differences in how the transfer window was handled and assembled, how the squad was assembled. I think there are differences for me. They won't say that publicly, but my conviction is that there are differences between him and people involved in the transfer and with the squad, in terms of building the squad, assembling it. There might be a peaceful resolution in that sense. I hope that isn't the case. I hope that there will be a different budget next summer where they can really give a strong squad with strong depth to Farke if we stay up. Otherwise, the only reason they can part with Farke is bringing an experienced top Premier League manager or an experienced upcoming or established European manager. I'm thinking about he's out of a job, Roberto De Zerbi, for example. You need to get in a manager that will glue with the community, will glue with Leeds, will understand what Leeds is about, A manager that is not a standard manager, because look at Farke, look at Bielsa. They don't talk much. They don't promote themselves much. Bielsa never said a bad word or never talk about this experience, at least when he left. Jesse Marsch is talking, trying to make people reevaluate his experience at Leeds, his spell at Leeds. If they ever change from Farke next summer, they need to bring in a passionate manager, but also one that has a specific offensive football trait, because that's what's expected now from a Leeds manager, That's what is expected right now. That's the only reason. If they plan to change, I hope that isn't the case, because I believe Farke is the manager for the long term at Leeds. And if it's the case, they need to bring in a De Zerbi, a manager that has of course, huge wages, but they see him as the future of Leeds United in terms of long-term strategy, getting to mid-table and into Europe. That case. That's the only that would be the only justifiable reason.
Yeah, I agree.
A top one, an established one.
We're in a good place. I just quickly wanted to bring this up, just to visualize the run we're on, because I think it's seriously underrated.
Underrated, man.
So underrated, and this doesn't even show it all. I'll just get this here. I'll just make it a little bigger.
And there were people saying about this run, an insane run for an newly promoted side, and especially with our squad, when we have very good players, all of them, but limited solution in key roles in the 3-5-2, 3-4-3. There's people really saying that Leeds there are too many draws recently for Leeds. I don't get it, honestly. I think that
Look
if
at
you
that
look at
run.
look at where we draw, actually. Look at where we drew away, especially.
Yeah.
So
That run for me, I mean, that's a newly promoted team run. Look how many games in the Premier League, and look how many losses, and look who they're against. I think it's so underappreciated what run we're on right now. Genuinely, I do. Draw to Liverpool, draw away at Brentford, beat Palace, draw away at Sunderland, a draw away at Anfield, a draw at home to Man United, a draw away at Everton, a draw away at Chelsea, and a draw away at Villa. With the only loss on there that's a problem, really. And it's not even a problem. It was a 4-3 loss at Newcastle where it was 4-3.
yeah,
The Arsenal
we
one,
could
we
have
got
won
battered.
that. We could have won that.
It's so, in my opinion, it's so underappreciated, this run we're on. I mean, look at the consistency in terms of position we've been for the last few weeks. That is so impressive for this team. And just to go down, and people can look down the right column here. After the and it goes before that as well. That didn't even have the Chelsea result on it, by the way. So add a win on there. Since Chelsea, which was December the 3rd, we're now at the end of February. We've lost 2 games.
Too many draws, man. Too many draws.
Too many draws. How dare we?
If we're
challenging for Europe, I'm going too many draws. But to stay in the Premier League, I'm going, this is such an underappreciated run. But I'm just like the entire, like, you know, when you look at pundits, they're not really talking about this run we're on. 2 losses since the 3rd of December for a newly promoted team is seriously impressive. And the fact that we're still only 6 points off the bottom 3 shows it was needed, and that these players have such a strong desire and mentality and togetherness to do this. This is a really good run. You know, we've been battered twice this season, and that's against Arsenal twice.
Yeah.
No other team has battered us. We might have been outperformed in certain games. Yeah, the 3-0 loss to Brighton was bad. That's probably one. So maybe 3 games this entire season where we've been battered. That's a seriously good run. A seriously good run. But now the key thing about this run is we've got to end in similar form. We have to.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it has to be as good, but I'm looking at our last home games, Andrea. I'm looking at Sunderland next week. Look, City's City. If they turn up, you're in trouble. If we turn up and they don't, maybe we can get something. You never know. It's football. But they're on a good run. They're on a very good run. But after that, Sunderland at home, Brentford at home, Wolves at home, Burnley at home, Brighton at home. Now this is the time to prove that run is serious now. It's a good run, a very good run, but we need it to continue.
There's also
West
another
Ham are in
thing,
form.
man. Yeah. And there's also another thing that goes under the radar for me that's not talked about. Leeds United 4, Crystal Palace 1. Leeds United 3, Nottingham Forest 1. Leeds United 2, West Ham 1. Of course, Leeds United 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2. But all the teams that we faced around us, even Leeds United, Fulham, if you want to extend it,
1-0,
Leeds 1, every team, direct rival, apart from Tottenham, we've beat them on Anfield Road in the key relegation fights. That's another thing that has gone under the radar. Our consistency in the crucial key matches, at Anfield Road.
Yeah,
against our rivals.
It's and the amount of teams we played as well where they're on good form. It seems every time we play someone, they're on a decent little run. Chelsea, Everton run a good run. There's in a few where, look when we played Palace as well. By the way, they were 5th in the league when we played them.
Yeah,
we played a good Palace team. So let's respect the run we're on and what this manager and these players are achieving. It is consistency. I've talked about Gruev. He epitomizes what we're doing right now. It might not be the most flashy. It might not be the most best individuals on the pitch, although Stack's goal was an absolute joke. But it's consistent and reliable, and it's doing what it needs. Now, of course, this in theory means nothing if we turn it off from now to the end of the season. 10 games left?
Yeah.
Now is the time to continue that and stay in this league. Because we stay in this league and we get the summer right, we're good.
Sky's the limit. Yeah.
100%. I think that's the key thing. Because we know the club, the plans to build the stadium, to expand the crowd, the fans are a joke.
Yeah.
Leeds is a massive club. There's so much potential in this club. If these players in these last 10 games can do the job required, for me, they will go down in terms of achieving similar to what the Bielsa did. I genuinely believe that. Because I do think this Premier League now is a little harder than it was previously. I do think
absolutely, man. 100%.
Recruitment's changed, models have changed, types of players, money's changed. It's so hard to stay in this league. I mean, look who said Spurs are below us. This is my point. It's so hard. So, yeah, just fair play with them. That's all I want to say, mate. It's such an underappreciated run. No one's talking about it. I think it's a really good run. Really good run.
It's insane. Honestly, it's an insane run for a new promoted side, especially the situation we're in, because people tend to think, oh, they have a good squad. Yes, we have a good squad, but also the way certain players are performing, overperforming, adapting, doing more than we could have asked them for, in certain position, other position, or first time in the Premier League. We tend to forget that Stack first season in the Premier League for him. Other players, that's the first season, Biel first season. Rodon wasn't great last time he was in the Premier League. Strauch had his ups and downs too. DCL was returning after injury. We could have not expected him to have this kind of impact. We had our problems too, because we still have our problems structurally. We are overcoming these problems too. The problem was the signing of number one that didn't work out, and now we have the number two in goal, Cardallo. But yeah, we overcome these problems. Okafor needing time to adapt. Aronson needed time to adapt. It wasn't great last time in the Premier League. But yeah, that run eventually started. Of course, we lost that game. But that started that day at Eastlands, 3-2 loss against Man City when we changed it last time, and we got back into the game and eventually lost in the final moments of the game with that shot from outside the box from Phil Foden. But yeah, they are our next opponent. They are unbeaten in the last 8 in all competitions. They have done 7 wins and 1 draw. The draw at in Tottenham, 2-2. They are really in form. They are trying to close the gap with Arsenal. I think Arsenal will do it eventually this time.
Really?
They tend to drop. I think they can. I think they will do it this time. They will win the league. But if I look at them, last game against Newcastle, the starting 11 was, of course, they have some injury problems. I have Guardiola out, Kovacic, for example. But their last lineup, honestly, I think City has changed a lot. They are going for more of a mix, in recent times, because looking at the game that they won against Newcastle 2-1, brace from Nico Riley, a 4, we can call it like he's classified as a 4-1-3-2, but I think he can be classified more like a typical 4-4-2 in a certain sense. Of course, positionally, Bernardo Silva is moving off the midfield, getting forward, but they fielded a team with Donnarumma in goal, Nunes right back, Ruben Dias, Gay, the 2 centre backs pair, Ait Nouri left back. Then they had Semenyo right wing, Bernardo Silva as the outlet in midfield, and Rodri as the pivot. Nico Riley on the left, and up front, of course, Marmoush and the Leeds boy, Erling Braut Haaland. And they brought in, look at the depth, they brought in Kuzanov at half time for Ruben Dias, Cherki and Foden eventually. But on the bench, uninvolved, Reinders, Rico Lewis, John Stones, Savinho, and Nico Gonzalez, and they had, of course, out Doku, Guardiola, and Kovacic, and also James Trafford as the backup goalkeeper, So honestly, I think my point of view is we can expect a similar game in terms of setup compared if we started to Farke, a more conservative one. But I want to see us to be brave. I want to see a brave team, honestly. I want to see 2 outlets behind the 9. I want to bring the pressure to them. Because otherwise, if we do the same setup we did against Villa, I think we get overrun.
Yeah.
there's a print, there's a footprint in this case. Look at what we did against Arsenal. Aronson and DCL up front. We never saw the ball. We never saw the ball that game. We got battered 4-0. We need to bring 2 behind DCL. We need to bring 2 and stay higher up the pitch, stay more balanced. Conservative, but balance, like in the middle of the park. We don't have to drop deep. If we do, I think it's gonna be a long day. We don't need to repeat this mistake that we did against Arsenal. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you get into games where you've got to kind of accept this is going to be so difficult. So let's just be brave. Let's just be positive. You're at home. Give the crowd something. The Ellen Road crowd. Realistically, you're going to lose this game. Like, let's just be realistic. You're probably going to lose the game, right? Obviously, it's professional football on the day. You think, of course, you do your best to win the game, but as a player, you'd be more annoyed losing. You'd be more annoyed losing to Wolves or a Brighton, to someone near us, than a Man City. You know that. Yeah, everyone knows that. So just do in the game. Give the crowd something, because you never know. If Ellen Road's buzzing and it is a close game, and maybe they've missed chances or we've done well defensively, and we win a few high presses, the crowd's in the game then. And that gives you an opportunity to get one chance and get a goal. We've seen it at Ellen Road before. We know this. This is common. Everyone knows the crowd is so key for us this year. That's why our home form is so good. Once, and I think the difference with Ellen Road is most stadiums require like really good football. And Ellen Road just needs 1 or 2 tackles high up. That's it. When City are trying to play out, can we nick it there? Can we intercept there? Can we get a shot on goal? That's it, and the crowd will be up for it. Let the crowd know early in the game that we're coming here to go at them. If we lose that game and we've gone at them, I won't be bothered. I won't. Look, if we're winning and then we lose, I will be. But an example where we're actually going for it, we have chances, we're creating, we're actually being aggressive. And City play through, or they do what City do sometimes, and they're just too good individuals as well that can combine together. It is what it is. I hated the Arsenal game because I didn't like the mentality of it. I thought we'd give them respect. And I can understand from a manager perspective, you're thinking, well, I don't want him to score 7 or 8 goals, but the fact is we got battered anyway each time. Yeah. You're telling me, watching the Arsenal game, if we were more aggressive, it'd have been worse. I don't think so. I think these teams hate it when you're aggressive. I think they're better than you. Yeah, they're better than you technically. Fact, they are. They're much better than us technically. But are they better than us physically? I don't know. So let's make it a physical game. Let's try and reduce that technical side of it. Let's not give them space. Let's not give them time. Don't let them pass it around our box for 20 minutes, because they'll find chances to score. I mean, the players are a joke in tight spaces. They're all really good at it. Let's not let them do that. Reduce the technical side of the game. And just be horrible, just be physical, hit corners, get players around the ball when we find DCL. Find DCL for a start, find our outlets. Aronson on the ball, be positive, drive with it, win as many fouls as we can. Wing backs, get crosses in the box. The things that we're good at, we need to just focus on. I think if we try and think about them too much, they'll just beat us anyway. We've just got to be what we can. And look, if we lose the game, but we look at that game going, you know what, we're actually decent. I'm actually happy with the way we played. I'm all right with it. And then after this game is where we've got a winnable home games coming up, and they're the ones that we need to win. This one you don't for me, but you have to give me something. I'm not going to be happy with a loss if we get battered and I didn't enjoy it. I want to enjoy the game. I want to actually enjoy some moments of us doing good things. That's just me though.
Who would you play? Who would you play beside Brandon Aronson behind DCL? Because I have a name in mind. I want to see if it's the same name that you have in your mind. If we were to play 3-4-2-1.
Honestly, Mecha. Do you know what? Do you know what it is? Just going back to the physical thing. I think Mecha. I can't remember what it was against. Mecha and DCL played as a 2. It was really good. It worked. It was physical. But for me, whether that's even who's a target man, so it'd be Metcher, it'd be more the target man. Even that's DCL. Them two can rotate. Aronson, is going to move around. It kind of creates a three up there. Two of them are really physical, and Aronson is really quick, direct. He can win second balls. I think it just works. I think there's chaos, there's height, there's physicality, but there's also a little bit of guile and hard work as well. But the key is for me, Andre, you've got to find them. And I think when you've got a Metcher and a DCL, it's easier to find that outlet as opposed to one of them. Because if it is two technical players behind DCL, they still might be hard to find. Whereas if we know we can go earlier and there's a Metcher and a DCL up there, it's likely that you'll find one of them. And then if not, you've got an Aronson running around. So I don't know. I guess I'm just looking at it from a physical perspective.
No, it's a good point of view. It's a good.
Who were you thinking?
I was thinking a different. Of course, I can see the sense in your perspective, of course, because there's different way to approach a game, and it's a good one. That one. My point of view was Aronson on the right, free roll, of course. Then Gnonto on the left. I know he hasn't played much, but I like when he's off the ball, he's pressing. And also, you will have behind DCL if you get under pressure from City to players that can run with the ball or progress or sprint. Like you recover the ball on the right, there's the opportunity to switch the side and get Gnonto on the 1v1 on the other side with Mateus Nunes. Because of course, the weak link for me is Mateus Nunes on the right for them, because he used to play in midfield. Now he's playing as a right back. And also similar to Mats Wiffer, at Brighton. I don't like those solutions, honestly. Of the conservative midfielders played and used as fullbacks. I would like that in terms of giving us some pace on the counter. But I can see the sense in your perspective of okay, let's get the ball forward. Then you have two physical players. You get Gay and Ruben Dias under pressure, or Kuzanov in that case. You get them under pressure with two physical players. You get them to challenge and stay involved there, because of course one of the main threats that they have is the build-up from the back, especially with Ruben Dias. Because usually the pass that goes to Rodri comes from Ruben Dias a lot of the time. It's a direct pass, vertical pass to Rodri that comes to help the two centre backs. So yeah, that was my perspective in that regard.
Yeah, I don't mind it. You know what, as well, mate. And I'm just thinking of Metcher used to play for City.
Yeah,
I mean that's something. It is to me. Yeah. I mean, he scored against him, didn't he? When we changed, he came on. Was it a penalty?
Yeah, penalty.
No,
yeah.
Or was it a scrappy goal? I can't remember. He scored though, didn't he? Yeah,
I think it was a penalty. So, no, the penalty was at Chelsea. I think it was a penalty too.
I think it was.
At City. Yeah, it was a penalty.
Was it? Or was it the rebound from the penalty? I can't remember. But yeah,
no, I can't remember.
But yeah, so I don't know. I just like the. Yeah, I look at them centre backs. They're good, but I just want to don't give them any time. Just it'd be horrible to
penalty.
DCL and Metcher against them two is just physical. I love it. And then you've got Aronson running around as well.
You got me sold there.
It just gives them. Imagine though, you've got two big lads who are strong and quick, right? Who can win aerial duels, who will battle you, they'll elbow you. But then you've got Aronson there as well, just running around. That's a nightmare. If you can find that, you'll cause chaos, and it'll become a scrappy game. And I kind of want it to be. And then you've got the two. You've got Ampadu and Gurev as well. Like, I like it, man. But if City turn up, you're in trouble, no matter who you are in the world.
I think we can match them, honestly. I'm not resigned, honestly. I think we've shown, especially in the second half there, we went toe-to-toe with them, especially after that first half at the Islands, I think it's not a close game. I think there's a game at there, because they don't have big personalities for me in their team. They have flaws, talent. The big personality is Rodri. Erling, of course, is a different kind of leader, for them. But apart from that, to Ruben Dias, these three are the leaders of the team for me. But honestly, I think there's a game. I'm not resigned. Honestly, I think we have shown at Islands that we can, with the right game plan, we can go toe-to-toe with them. Of course, Pep would have rewatched 100 times that game probably. But that thing, honestly, I don't think is that close or that confined, like people think. I think we can surprise people in this game. I think we can, honestly. I'm positive.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. I always am.
Yeah.
Especially home. Home is home. I love it. You never know what could
Yeah.
happen at Elm Road, especially this season. But yeah, anything else you want to add, Andre? I think we'll leave it there. Like I said,
No, I think we'll leave it there. It was
history.
good to catch up. Hopefully next time we speak, I have my account back.
Yeah.
And the 3 points. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna give this prediction.
Go on.
Saturday, we get the result against City and the account back at the same time.
That's very, very wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Well,
Hopefully.
yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah. No,
We'll
it
see.
was good to catch up now. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyway, thanks for watching, lads. See you in a bit next week, and hopefully we have to talk about the positive result. Leeds.